Hello everybody, welcome to not Wolfie Extras, but to the third channel. Today, I shall address the YouTube algorithm, I guess, to an extent, because, first, before I get into anything, this is not a big deal really at all, but I just wanted to mention it. I posted a reaction video on my second channel, of course, Wolfie Extras, and, largely positive, but some people, fairly so, at least, straightforward thinking, makes sense, were critical to an extent, saying like, hey, maybe you shouldn't post a reaction video because it hurts the video in the algorithm, right? And of course, being a YouTuber myself, I've done this for a while. It's pretty silly seeing people usually talk about the algorithm because if you're not really a YouTuber, like it's very rare that you would have an understanding of the algorithm. And even so, YouTubers don't really have an understanding of the algorithm. I'm not going to pretend like I fully do. I also totally understand why people would interpret things a certain way. I'm going to try my best to provide a bit of a behind the scenes a little bit regarding how the algorithm works to quote unquote plead my case, I guess, technically speaking. Before I get into that though, people in the comments here, some of them were mentioning like, hey, Nerdy said not to repost, or people just said, hey, doesn't reaction content like hurt the video, etc. Number one, I didn't know Nerdy didn't want people to repost or anything. I was asked on stream to react to it, which, again, pretty standard, procedure there. I do know Nerdy, we are cool. We are very much acquainted. If he had a problem with it, he can totally reach out to me. I'll take the video down. That's totally fine. But I don't think it's a problem. As you can see, the editor of said video said it's fine. Just didn't want people to re-upload it right before the video algorithm stuff happened, which is totally true. So let me give you a little peek behind the curtains, because I think this is going to be very interesting to a lot of you, potentially. So, what happens... Also, I just realized Spotify was muted. Oops. What happens when a video is posted, of course, is it goes out and it gets recommended. Now, of course, a recommended looks something like this, usually. You can see a very wide mix of stuff that I see on my recommended on this specific channel. This is not like the main channel I watch content on. I watch content on my main channel, the Wolfie channel, not in the Wolfie Extras channel. This is usually for like streamer content, which is what you see up here, or like Minecraft-esque content every now and then, mostly like a Feinberg clip here and there. So what happens is when a video gets posted, it gets recommended. Anytime a video pops up in the recommended here, it is counted as an impression, right? An impression is just someone sees it, technically, right? Or the computer thinks someone sees it, more so. Because if I scroll through, I imagine all of these are counted as impressions as well, right? So that's an impression. That's the main thing to look at. We can also look at it here. This is a lifesteal video that I posted recently on this on my second channel, where you see I have 100,000 impressions, which means 100,000 people theoretically, technically, saw this video. They just didn't watch not everyone watched it, right? So that's the impressions. Now, the thing with an impression is the goal a YouTuber has, the thing they want most is for somebody to click on their video upon it being an impression, right? So in this instance, I mean, it's not a very good example, but let's say Ludwig here, right, wants to see me click this video, so he's going to try to package this video as good as possible to make it very clickable, which is why thumbnails and titles, etc. are so important, because you want people to click on your video when it is recommended. Once that recommendation hits, right, once you decide to click, the next goal is to keep the viewer there for as long as possible, which is where you can see an engagement. Average view duration. This is something people very much care for. The longer the average viewer watches your video, the better, right? That just means you, number one, of course, get more ad slots usually, which is good for money, but also it's liked by the YouTube algorithm. The YouTube likes seeing videos with a lot of, with a very high view duration. This is also why somewhat recently, longer form videos were doing better because, to my knowledge, because, a 3-hour long video is bound to have an average view duration of probably around, less than an hour, but like still pretty high, depending on what the video is, etc. In some cases, the average view duration is going to be an hour something, right? YouTube sees that and goes, wait, this video has an average view duration of an hour plus versus, let's say, my video here has 5.5 minutes. This hour plus average view duration is keeping people on the website way longer. Let's recommend that, right? That makes sense technically, right? YouTube also wants people to be on their website as much as possible because advertising, etc., etc. This also is good for YouTubers themselves, because if your video is getting pushed and you get, compensated very nicely for it, that's good. This is your quote unquote job or hobby. You still want that. So that's the foundation, I think, for a recommendation in general, right? You want to get a lot of impressions. You want to get impressions from from those impressions. You want to get as many clicks as possible, and which is the CTR here, impression click-through rate. You can see that it can vary a bit. Usually, the more a video gets recommended, the lower your click-through rate gets, because earlier on, you're more likely to hit your target audience. Whereas once that success has kind of done its thing, it'll go further beyond your target audience, which is usually going to be include more people that aren't actually interested in that type of content, but YouTube thinks they might be interested in that type of content. That probably makes sense as well, I'd hope. So yeah, that's another thing. So now, hopefully I've set the foundation pretty well. Sorry, I love rambling. Let's talk about my reaction video. What does this reaction video do in this instance? What happens with this reaction video in this environment where, of course, the main point of attention is Nerdy's video's performance, because that's what a part of the audience was the most expressive about, right? I recognize, to an extent, some of the people, and I can very clearly tell that they are speedrun viewers or people who actively pay attention to speedrunning. I totally understand wanting to quote unquote defend your guy, right, your creator, even though I know him, and wants his video to do as well as possible. So do I. I think speedrunning is awesome, but I do want to explain how everything works, just to kind of get the foundation, etc. So my reaction video, and really any reaction video for that matter, is of course gonna be in that similar lane to Nerdy's actual video. It's kind of hard to really put it into proper perspective, because my reaction video versus when I'm Dante does a reaction or something like that, right? Like somebody who's way bigger is going to have a very different impact. But let's just talk about my thing, and then maybe I'll clarify how it would work for a larger creator, of course, right? When I make a reaction video like this, it's going to be recommended, right? First thing, impression. The impressions are going to come from two audiences. Number one, my audience, right? People who watch my channel or watch content related to my channel, etc. Maybe, somebody who might only look at MCC announcement videos, right? Team announcements will potentially get something like this recommended because they watch my channel. And number two, it's going to be people who watch the topic of this video, right? Whether it's speedrunning, whether it's Nerdy specifically, etc. Maybe it's Feinberg because he's in the thumbnail, etc., right? That is probably where part of the other audience comes from. This is mostly going to be the new viewers, right? That would come from this area. And to an extent, you can tell this is the case because this specific video, when you look at the recommended videos for me, in result of this, you see JoJo's speedrunning video, you see this is a Minecraft-based video. Smant and Ludwig, I think, are just there because of variety content I watch. You see another Nerdy video. Kel is because I, of course, also see event stuff. And then there's another, speedrunning related video, right? There's a lot of related content. So that's kind of the stuff that happens there. So let's talk about the audiences, etc. So the first audience, my audience, or people that watch my type of content, unless they already watch speedrunning content, they are less likely to stumble upon Nerdy's actual video. So this is something where it could end up benefiting Nerdy, because when I react to it, it exposes it to, realistically a small portion of people, but some extra people that could end up watching this video. One thing that can happen, and this is currently happening on my main channel, is a video can pick up extra steam from a small influx of new viewers. Because what happens is, as the impressions slow down, so if we look here, as the impressions slow down, you can tell here, of course, this was rapidly increasing here, but now it's slowed down. There's a smaller sample size of viewers that YouTube looks at for a video's quote-unquote success, right? So from this portion of viewers, let's call it 1,000, right? Roughly 1,000 viewers over the past few hours. The click-through rate, we can't really truly see it, but it's less than 3, let's say, right? If for whatever reason a new influx of viewers were to come in, let's say an extra 1,000 viewers were to come in, and this click-through rate from those 1,000 viewers was much higher, YouTube is looking at that like, hey, this video is suddenly doing so much better, let me recommend it a bunch to people a bunch more, right? Which is what a reaction video can do. I will say, probably not going to happen from this video, but it can do that because, you know, I've already watched the nerdy video on this channel, so I will not be getting it recommended anymore because I've already seen it. A new viewer potentially would, right? I, of course, you know, have made this video, reaction bubble or whatever. They could get the video recommended to them and potentially decide to watch it for themselves. Of course, because it's a reaction, it's less likely. You could argue that because of that extra impression that comes there, that's probably not going to be clicked through, that could be harmful, etc. Ultimately, it's not really going to do much, but again, potentially could end up doing a positive or have a positive impact, etc. Right? Potentially. So that's number one. The number two audience is the audience that watches speedrunning, nerdy, Feinberg, etc. And if I'm honest, I feel like the majority, if not almost every single person who would watch my video from that audience would have seen the nerdy video already. To an extent that is implied by part of the response here, of course, as well, where the most liked comments here are the ones from people saying, hey, watch Nerdy's video or Nerdy, blah, blah, whatever, which is totally fine, totally understandable. But in that instance, most of those viewers will not be getting their first impression of this video from my side of things. This will essentially be their second run of watching the content, which is very natural. Reaction content is very popular for a reason. It's something people really like to see, generally speaking. So yeah, I don't think that really does any harm in that front either, because again, like mentioned, most of those viewers will either have watched it already or already familiar with Nerdy to a different extent. Plus, another thing I guess to mention is in terms of the first audience, my audience, if they like this reaction video, if they see this reaction video and are like, oh, this video is really good, they might decide to check out more of Nerdy's content, right? As you can see in my recommended, it's here, like Speedrunner versus Moderator, blah, blah, from 3 years ago. You know, maybe people would be like, hey, I want to click that now. I'm interested. So yeah, that's kind of the little peeled potato of all of that. So hopefully that gives a little bit of perspective. Again, I totally understand the what's it called? The initial reaction or initial expectation potentially of how a reaction video impacts a video's performance, but generally speaking, I think in terms of smaller creators, it's not going to do as much as some people think. What is one situation where reaction content can be harmful is when it's a larger creator doing it, right? Of course, my reaction video in 12 hours picked up 2,000 views, potentially in the full 24 hours could pick up 3,000 views, who knows really. But somebody like I mentioned, I'm Dante, or there's plenty of other reaction creators who would react to like actual videos instead of just music, can end up being harmful to a video's performance. Because again, if it's a big creator, you look at hundreds of thousands of views, maybe even 1 million plus views on certain videos, and when a video is missing out on that much performance or that many impressions, I do think it can end up being harmful, especially because a lot of that like crowd that watches actually I was gonna say a lot of the crowd that watches those reaction creators just watch the reaction creators, but that wouldn't really be harmful because they wouldn't watch the original video anyways. So small portion of that, but even then, that's when it is a bit more of a problem, I think, than when it's somebody like me, little old me. But then again, I totally understand why people would have an issue with it. I really don't think this is going to end up doing any harm to the video, especially because I think its main boom of success has already happened. If we very briefly go to Nerdy, and we look at the video, you can see that it is currently at 400,000 views. I think if I had to guess how the graph is going, it probably like started pretty slow, like let's say like started like pretty normal, it probably had like a major pop off, or maybe it started fast. Honestly, who knows? But it probably went like neom, like super fast upwards, and it's currently in like this is like a little nick, I guess is what you would call it. Maybe it's like a little bend in the curve, right? Where I guess you could look at it like this. It's more smooth, but that like initial boom has kind of faded out, but it's still performing nicely because of course it's a great video and it's still getting recommended. Where it probably looks a bit more like this portion here, if I had to guess, where it's like still getting a lot of attention, but no crazy super high diagonal spikes, right? Either way, again, check out Nerdy as well. If you haven't seen his video, please do watch that one before my reaction, of course, to it, and check out some of his other content. I personally have not indulged in nerdy content before, at least not on YouTube before this video, but maybe I will. Who knows? It appears he's, as of recent, coming back to doing YouTube content, and it's paying off, so shout out Nerdy, hope he does really well. Anyways, thank you all for watching my reaction to my reaction, whatever, you know, the analysis video. Hopefully you either learned something about how YouTube works to an extent, the algorithm potentially, or you just like listening to me, which is cool, I guess. Anyways, thank you for watching. See you later. Goodbye.